All right, the second day of quadratic word problems. If you get through this day, man, you are the elite, the best of the best. These are some good, tricky, challenging algebra problems that are good for your soul. Let's check out the first one here. So it says that a picture is in a frame of uniform width. You know, the first time I came to Putnam Valley, I loved our classrooms. Do you notice in the rooms, there's a blue border that goes around the room? That's a uniform width. It's the same width all the way around. So in this case, there's a picture in a frame of a uniform width. So here's what it looks like. Here's the picture. Maybe it's a picture of your favorite math teacher. Oh, that's so nice of you. So you have the picture, and then you have a frame around it. And the frame has the same width all the way around it. So it says the dimensions of the picture are 12 by 16. So that distance is 12 and that distance is 16. But we don't know how wide the frame is. So the width of the frame, like that distance there, let's call it x. And because it's a uniform width, it's the same width all the way around. And we're told that the area of the frame and the photo, so the total area, is 320 square inches. So let's see if we can find like a length and a width here in terms of x. Then we can write an area equation. So notice that if I'm looking for the width of this, I have to go some distance x, then I go a distance of 12, and then I go another distance of x. So that distance then, we're going to write it as 2x plus 12. And if we do the same thing going on the longer side, we have distance of x, then 16, then another x. Sure enough, you guessed it, it's going to be 2x plus 16. So there's our length, there's our width. Let's write ourselves an equation. Let's say that the length times the width is equal to 320 square inches. Okay, let's do a little bit of algebra. Let's start distributing some things out. If I start distributing my 2x times my 2x, I get 4x squared. Then 2x times 16, there's my 32x. And then if I multiply here, I get a 24x. And if I multiply our last terms together, 12 times 16, I believe, is 192. Alrighty, well, I think we're going to set this one equal to 0 and then see what happens. I'll also combine some like terms in the middle. 32x and 24x make a 56x. And then if I do 192 minus 320, I believe I get negative 128. So again, you got options, man. You got options. You can do quadratic formula. You can complete the square. You can do factoring. I'm looking at this, I'm thinking that all those numbers are divisible by 4. So I think there's going to be a common factor of 4 here. So let's see, when I factor out a 4, I'm going to get an x squared. 56 divided by 4 is 14. And 128 divided by 4 is 32. Okay, well that made my factoring a little bit easier. So now I'm looking for numbers that multiply to 32 and combine the 14. So that's going to give me an x plus 16 times x minus 2. I'll bring my 4 down, but remember that 4 doesn't equal 0. So I'm really just going to forget about that. So when I go to solve my equation, I get these two values. So one of my answers is negative 16, and one of my answers is 2. Now, they're asking for the width of the frame. A width is a positive measurement. So I don't need the negative 16. I'm going to take the 2. So the width of my picture frame is 2 inches. That's the little symbol mark for inches. So this uniform width type of problem, a big thing to remember is that the length and width is always going to be like 2x plus something and 2x plus something else. That's how we're going to represent the length and the width. So that's helpful. Draw yourself a good picture. All right, let's keep rolling a little bit. This next one's one of my favorites. So there's a farmer, and he's got 60 feet of fence. And he's going to build a rectangular chicken coop from that fence. He's got 60 feet of it to use. Now, I guess however many square feet chicken need, he says he's got to give enough room to move around. So the area needs to be 216 square feet. So it looks like we're going to have another rectangle type of problem here. And again, we want the dimensions of the coop. We want the length and the width. So let's see. I don't know if we know what the length is. Or the width. So let's call that x. Now it's a rectangle, so the other side is x2. Well, here's where we got to play for a minute. Remember, this farmer has 60 feet of fence. So that's the perimeter. Oh, let's see. Can I write perimeter up there? That's the perimeter. Indeed so. There we go. That's perimeter. So I have 60 feet of fence. If I've used up x of it, I have to take that away. So I've used 60 minus, or I have left 60 minus 2x of it. But I got to put it on two different sides. So let's divide that by 2. So then that means that each side of my fence I can represent by 30 minus x. So now I got a length and I got a width. I can write myself an area equation. X times 30 minus x. And he wants the area to be 216. Thank goodness this farmer knows algebra. So let's do our distributive property. Now this looks a lot like something we can complete the square to, except for one thing. I have a negative x squared. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 1 to make it a positive x squared. So when I divide everything by negative 1, I'm going to get a positive x squared. I'm going to get a negative 30x. And I'm going to get a negative 216. And then I got a blank space, baby. Oh, you guys are kind of sick of that. Taylor Swift dumped me anyway, man. Oh, well. So let's complete the square now. Let's do 30 divided by 2. That's 15. 15 squared is 225. So I'm going to add my 225 there. Now let's take some square roots. Over here, square root of 225 or half of 30 is 15. If I combine a negative 216 and a 225, I get a positive 9. Let's now take some square roots. Over here I get x minus 15. Square root of 9 is a plus or minus 3. So here's my two answers. Let me add 15 to both sides. I'm going to get x equals 15 plus or minus 3. Now this is going to be interesting, because I do 15 plus 3 and I get 18. And I do 15 minus 3 and I get 12. I got two positive answers. Which one do I keep? I'm going to keep them both. I'm going to keep them both. Because no matter which I use for x, if I use x equals 18, 30 minus 18 is 12. If I use 12, 30 minus 12 is 18. So my dimensions then are 18 by 12. Those are my dimensions. So I solved that one by completing the square. That's pretty cool. Let's keep going. We got one more to play with. And this one's not too bad. We'll end on a good one. A school is building a rectangular soccer field. Did you know that soccer fields have an area of 6,000 square yards? I bet you didn't know that. And the soccer field must be 40 yards longer than its width. So I'm guessing we're going to call it x and x plus 40. 40 more yards. And let's use algebra to determine the dimensions of the soccer field. They threw that in for algebra. This was from a Regents exam because they didn't want people to guess numbers like, I don't know, like 60 and 100. I don't know. So let's see if we can write an equation for it. We're going to do a length times a width. And that's going to equal our area of 6,000 square feet. Holy big number there. Again, when I look at this, though, I'm almost looking like it's setting up for a completing the square problem. And not a bad completing the square problem either. Do you want to set equal to 0 and factor it, or do the quadratic formula? You could do that too. I like completing the square, though. Half of 40 is 20. 20 squared is 400. Oh, what nice numbers this is going to be. Check this out. So when I factor on this side, I get x plus 20. And over here, I get 6,400. And if you're looking at 6,400 going, that number looks pretty cool to me. It looks cool to me too. And I'll tell you why. Because don't you know what the square root of 64 is? Yeah, the square root of 64 is 8. So then the square root of 6,400 is 80. Let's subtract 20 over. And let's see what we get now. We're going to get x equals a negative 20 plus or minus 80. So let's figure out what those numbers are going to be. If I do negative 20 plus 80, I'm going to get 60. And if I do negative 20 minus 80, I'm going to get negative 100. Now we're looking for the dimensions of the soccer field. We don't want soccer fields to have negative dimensions. Let's cross that one off. So it looks like the width of it is 60. And it looks like the length of it is 100. Hey, didn't I guess those numbers before? Oh, wow. So, some more solving of these equations. They're not easy. Let me just warn you right away. They're not easy ones to solve. But with your intestinal fortitude and your never say die attitude and your internal motivation, you'll do fine.